Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for Leadership Today, Key Skills and Career Job Tips, led by Julie Truong. Julie is the founder of Leadership Savvy, bringing 20 years of sector experience. She has led innovative community initiatives and supported the development of hundreds of leaders. Her success spans strategic partnerships, diverse community building, group facilitation, leadership training, and coaching. Previously, she led a major school reform effort with leaders from 100 corporate, nonprofit, and government agencies, successfully addressing academics, community safety, the launch of multiple health clinics, a child care center, and a recreational center. Her supportive, engaging approach makes her a highly sought-after consultant, facilitator, trainer, and coach. Thank you so much, Julie, for leading this workshop today, and I'm now going to hand it over to you.
Thanks, Madison. Thank you, Nonprofit Learning Lab, for having me here today, and welcome, everybody. I'm really excited to chat with you about this topic because it is so relevant where we are at today. Of course, leadership development has always been relevant, but today's times are really calling us to lead differently and be much more agile. So I'd like to share with you some of the discussions that I've been having with my clients around where is the direction that I need to focus on for my leadership? Where am I taking my team, my organization? How do we really meet our mission, continue to meet our mission under the circumstances today? And the question that is a little bit new that I've been chatting with folks about is actually self-reflection. I've worked with a lot more executives who are asking the questions about, this is tough. Where is my career going? I have 10, 15, 20 years, and I want to make sure that the efforts that I'm putting forth are aligned with what brings me the most fulfillment and joy, because this work is just, it's not easy. It's beyond a 9 to 5. And so I'm really proud of those executives who are finally asking those questions. And I think as nonprofit professionals, we often put our clients and our staff first. So it's been really wonderful to be able to chat with executives on what skills they have, how to reposition their story to help them really get to a job and an opportunity that really fulfills them. And sometimes it's within the current job they have, it's just reframing it. So we'll chat about some of those conversations I've been having to help you also be able to think about your career in the sector. So I'm going to cover a little bit about the current landscape, key skills for today, do a mini self-assessment, walk you through it so that you can kind of assess where you are with your leadership development and identify some goals. We'll talk about how to lead through crisis, how organizations have had to innovate, and finally, some career building, job searching tips. Even if you're not searching, there are some things you can do right now to position yourself to make sure that you are really positioning your career well. So as I mentioned, we're in a time now where things have been turned upside down. We're kind of approaching a new normal, but the fact stands that we've had to manage through a displaced workforce. Some have gone fully remote, others have had to really increase the safety standards for folks who have to come into the office or to the clinics. And that really creates different levels of anxiety. So as leaders, we've all been called to really bring more empathy to how we lead and to really communicate at a higher level, meaning more regularly and in a way that truly is connecting with our staff, our volunteers at a very personable, understanding level. So I want to just put out there that that has clearly disrupted how staff feel in terms of things are just changing. The world is different. So kudos to all of you who have helped staff feel safe even through some of these difficult times and the difficult decisions, especially if you had to downsize or reorganize your workforce. We've also seen a big change in program needs. Organizations have responded so differently to the pandemic and to the issues of our current times. I'll talk a little bit more about how some of those reactions have yielded different results. But what stands is every organization right now is looking at their programs Can we offer what we've previously offered? Is this still the relevant method? So these questions are something we all share. And for some organizations, it's been easy, and for others, it's been harder to pivot. We also are faced with a changed economy. It has led to uncertainty with how do we fundraise? How do we reach people who are, a lot of the questions I get are, how do we be sensitive to the times? If folks are unemployed or have job uncertainty, is it still respectful of us to ask them the same ask that we asked them last year? And so the answer is most organizations have had to change their pitch and have had certainly had to rethink how they do fundraising. So there's a lot more online fundraising that's being explored right now. And in the fall and in the winter, we're going to see many more creative fundraising models come through. Innovating through crisis. We're going to have a few slides that really talk about, through all of this innovation and rethinking, how do we manage our teams through all of this? How do we make it more participatory, meaning not just a few people at the top are making these change decisions? And that actually is a very freeing concept. As a leader, sometimes we feel like we have to have all the answers. But when we really talk to staff and when I come in and do team trainings, the staff actually, we all know they're really bought into the mission. And I think that weathers them for a long time. They continue to be bought in. However, the number one thing they say is they want to be a part of the solution. So we're going to talk about how we can better manage innovation and change. So I had mentioned organizations have been reacting quite differently to the pandemic and to the issues of today. I've seen really three key models. I actually have three clients who are very similar. They all run youth programs in partnership with schools. And one of them decided to play it safe. They were very fortunate. They have a well-run organization and had almost a year of reserves in the bank. And so they shut everything down and were able to finish all of their back burner operations projects. They did have to downsize and furlough pretty much all of their staff, except for a couple of operations positions and the executive director. But I describe it as they were playing it safe. They were going to wait it out. We had an organization that was much more measured. They took some time. They didn't furlough any staff, but they did give staff a heads up that things are likely going to change. And so what they did is, after a couple of weeks, they realized that their programs would have to completely move online. And so they took their existing team and moved them into different roles. They basically got rid of their existing job titles and looked at, for this short term, if we needed to move our programs online, what skills do we need? And so staff were able to co-design that and basically nominate themselves and said, ooh, I'm happy to take the social media marketing. I'm happy to take that outreach with the school district. I'm happy to build the kits that we need to deliver to the students. So it was a really interesting team building moment. And for the most part, they were able to preserve their programs. All they did was they packaged it and moved it online and offered it through Zoom. So that was a quick pivoting organization, but in what I would describe as a measured way, because they really took time to plan it out. I had a third organization who immediately saw opportunity, saw the potential for really reaching more students through online media. And they immediately reached out to their partners. They communicated with their funders. They communicated with the schools, the district leaders. They communicated with their staff. And they said, we need to be there for our students. Our students, they're at home. It's going to be very difficult for them to continue to socialize and feel supported. So they saw their programs as that support for the students during this time. So they immediately pivoted. The partners were on board. And because they were the first ones to respond, the school district actually allowed them access to all of their schools. This is actually LAUSD. So they had always dreamed of reaching the entire LAUSD school student population. They thought, oh, in 3 years, that'll be our dream goal. But literally overnight, they hit their 3-year goal. So I'm sharing these 3 examples because none of them are better than others, but they do yield different results. And so I'd like to I shared these 3 examples for you to reflect upon during that phase, in moments of crisis, in moments of uncertainty. Are you the type of leader who is play it safe, right? All your ducks are in a row. You can buy a little bit of time. Are you measured, right? Things are a little unsure, but let's do some research. Let's gather some data. Let's talk to people and let's come up with a solution. Or are you more of a pioneer? You dive right in. You sell a vision and you make it happen. The way you react to uncertainty might actually be related to different skills that you've developed over time. And in our professional settings, there are 3 key skills that leaders need. We have not always valued them the same way. So traditionally, we used to predict uh, work success, professional success by somebody's IQ, right? By 2nd or 3rd grade, we should be able to take IQ tests and predict whether or not they will be a CEO of a firm. Over time, in the last 10 years especially, we've really seen that IQ is not the be all end all, that actually EQ is really important. EQ meaning emotional quotient, and IQ meaning intelligent quotient. So EQ is the soft skills. The IQ people, they have the smarts. They know how to get it done. They can see it in their minds, right? They see the solution. But it's the EQ people, people with high emotional intelligence, who are able to communicate that message, gain that buy-in, and see that project through. So the combination of IQ and EQ, we're all sold on that. So what is new in the last couple of years is really looking at AQ, and AQ is the agility quotient. The agility quotient has become more and more important as change has become more and more rapid and immediate, and really something that us as leaders need to always be thinking about. It isn't something that, oh, on a quarterly basis, let's think about how we innovate. Pretty much every day, we are faced with assessing our systems, the way we lead our teams, the way we respond to clients, that it is a constant feedback and evolution loop. We're listening, we're responding, we're making our programs better. We are there. That is how we operate as a nonprofit sector. I really believe the nonprofit sector is the ultimate agility sector. We are super resourceful, we are always listening, and we're open to change. But how we implement change, that's where we sometimes get stuck and fall short. So we'll talk about how to actually lead and make sure that that change vision is successful. Our ability to do that, our ability to see that change that is needed, that's your agility quotient. And so as leaders, we need to really start to exercise that muscle more, recognize that it is a muscle, and the days of just doing good work and really getting along with your team isn't quite enough. It's that business strategy. It's the constant being aware of what's on that next, on the other side of that next hill. As I mentioned, we're going to present to you self-assessment. I'm also, I have experience as an executive recruiter, so I do a lot of career coaching. And depending on where you're looking to lead your career, you may need to emphasize different strengths. Sometimes I work with folks who also just need to go through this assessment to better understand what strengths that they do have. Because again, so many of us in the sector, we are focused on the job at hand, and it is for our staff, it is for our clients, it's for the mission. And so we often don't do self-reflection on what have I learned over time, and how do I position my skill set so that I can continue to contribute really well. This is an example, it's a list, it's not exhaustive. Depending on your specific role, if it's a CEO, COO, operations, program, marketing, you may have different skills and expertise that you want to emphasize, uh, to develop upon, or to highlight as your skill. But I'll mention a few because these are the most common ones that recruiting teams look for. And quite honestly, if you are on a leadership team, you will want people with these skills on your team to make sure you have a well-rounded organization. And if you become the chief executive or you're the business leader, you are going to need to know enough to be dangerous for sure. You will want to know these topics so that you can oversee your staff and be a strategic partner with them. So the first one is strategic planning and management. A lot of us in the nonprofit sector are really good at understanding our clients and doing the programmatic work. And then eventually we move up, we start to do tracking and reporting. We keep working hard, and then we find ourselves really having to make the case to funders. So now we find ourselves grant writing or writing grant reports or fundraising. And then we have insight about what the real needs are, and we try to pitch ideas to be able to continue to improve our programs. And if you're in a leadership role, you get to help actually make some of those decisions and help move the team along to implement those. So it's to get to strategic planning and able to manage a strategic plan and put it into action. It's not something that everyone gets to do right away. So think about your career development. Have you had that experience? And if you have not yet, how can you communicate with your colleagues to allow you to be a part of that process? And today, since we're talking about real-time strategic planning more than the 3 to 5 year strategic plan, so today there's a lot of opportunity for you to gain experience in planning, in strategy. Ask to be at the table. And if you're a leader, open up the table, open those doors up and allow more people to come in and be a part of that planning with you. The second one is board and executive leadership. Again, it's one of those that how am I supposed to get experience unless I'm in those roles, working directly with the board or working directly with the leadership team. It's as you put forth your ideas, don't be shy to ask and be transparent that you would like to gain leadership experience, that your trajectory is to one day be able to serve in a leadership role. And so how might you help somebody serve the board, or how might you help an executive team plan? One of the best ways to gain this experience is to actually serve on a board of directors yourself. We need really strong board leaders, and it is such a great way to learn what it takes to run an organization and what it means to be legal and fiscally responsible for the health of an organization. So board leadership is a great way to gain that experience. So think about your experience, how much have you had and what other experience would you like to gain? The next couple are more about operations. Have you managed budgets? What size? Do you know how to read a P&L? Have you had to work with the finance staff person or team or consultant? Have you had to do fundraising? Have you had to do the strategy behind fundraising to build the annual budget? Have you had to implement operations, program strategy, really managing contracts, making sure you're negotiating at a rate that works for your company, making sure that staff understand how to implement the contracts, and really minimizing risk for your agency. Closely related is HR and supervision. A quarter of businesses spend their money on HR. It's a really expensive endeavor to hire and to manage, and then the stress involved of trying to manage difficult employees or having to fire them and then having to start the process all over again. So oftentimes as a recruiter, when we ask questions around HR, a lot of people answer, oh yeah, I have a great relationship with my staff. But actually we're looking for people who are not just good friends with their team, but are giving a good balance of support and challenge to their team, and being really responsible in seeing potential risks and minimizing them. Uh, so my last two bullets are more about external. So we've talked about quite a few internal skill sets. Now I'd like to invite you to think about your external facing experience. Have you had to work on any partnership building outside of your agency? Maybe you've had to work on communication and marketing, public affairs or policy, educating the public about your issue. And finally, are there any sector specific knowledge areas, experiences that you have brought? I invite you to look at this list, take a screenshot, or I think we're going to send you the video afterwards too, so you can always come back to the slide. But really go through and think about, write down a list, two lists. One side, here are my strengths, here's my experience. And then here are the areas that I'd like to further grow. And it's also okay to recognize that you don't want to grow in that area. Maybe you realized that's not an interest area of yours, but there's a recognition that you would have to hire or partner with somebody to make sure that that gets done. But again, it doesn't mean you're not going to know anything about it, or you can remove yourself from that type of role, because as you step into higher leadership levels, you definitely need to know enough to be able to provide that oversight. And the column where you wrote your skills, those are going to be what you put on your resume. As you write down your skills, I want you to step back and think, wow, what do I really uniquely bring to the table? What skills do I bring? And how do I tell my story? What do I want to be known for? So if you have 3 to 5 things that you are really proud of, work that you enjoy doing, things that you want to be known for, I'm going to want to start seeing that whenever you talk with anyone, or on your resume, on your LinkedIn profile, as you post on social media, as you network with folks. What I'm hoping you gain is clarity and confidence around the skill sets that you have. So I made a little note at the bottom. Know your strengths and interests, right? Put that into the world, and don't let gaps derail you. A lot of folks will look at a job application and think that they don't qualify. And I invite you to be more careful. You know, sometimes you won't qualify for all 10 areas that they're looking for, right? They're looking for a unicorn. That probably doesn't exist. But maybe you bring 7 out of 10 of those skill sets and be very proud of those 7. And then you can be intentional about how am I going to fill in the gaps with the other 3 skill sets that maybe you are not as strong in. We'll circle back and talk more about positioning your career in a bit. So now that we've talked about you and your reflection of your leadership and experience, let's talk about leading our teams. So today, we are constantly faced with implementing change efforts, whether it's technology-based, whether it's program changes, or restructuring our boards, right? There's a lot of change happening at the same time. McKinsey & Company in 2015 researched why change programs fail, and they said that 70% of change initiatives fail really just because of the lack of employee buy-in. So remember earlier I said, as a nonprofit sector, we actually have a unique benefit. Our employees, by default, are actually bought in. We have a mission that they buy into. And so for us as leaders, we need to tap into that and really remind them about how the changes align back to our mission, align back to our strategic plan, which allows us to be successful in our mission. But I think this number is really stark, that it's not the technology, it's not the funding, it's not the partnerships, it's not the economy that derails change management. It is actually employee buy-in. So making sure that our teams are fully on board and brought along the way. So I'll give you a few tips on how to manage and lead innovation and change. So during this time of uncertainty, actually, we have folks want answers. And so surprisingly, they are open-minded for communication around decisions, especially if it's change, right? I think when things are operating kind of as normal, folks get really anxious about change. Even though there's maybe a CRM system they don't like, when you introduce a new CRM system, they're even more anxious, right? Because now you've taken something that they don't like, but they know, and you're about to throw it out the window. So there's a different type of anxiety. But today, as we're working in our homes a lot and we're so individualized in our workday, to be able to come together as a team and say, hey guys, we have this issue here, let's work together to solve it. People are very open-minded about that. So people during these times are feeling united around a purpose that as leaders, if we can drive that, we're starting off on the right foot. People are also much more open to seeing systems differently. So things that used to seem like roadblocks in the external system, suddenly today we can knock on those doors again, and folks are open to taking our call, open to taking our meeting. Partners that we never thought would work together, we're starting to see that they're willing to have that conversation, that times are different. So let's come to the drawing board together and see if we can design solutions together. For example, the easiest one that I see that systems are different and people are open to it is, we never thought this much of our population could work from home. But now anyone who is able to work from home is working from home. So suddenly our systems are set up to be able to accommodate this. As a juxtaposition, internally, we also have new opportunities to design solutions. Again, in times where things are a little more normal, change and strategy happens in a more hierarchical fashion, in a more specific step-by-step way, right? You have to go through the bureaucracy, the process. And I actually love nonprofits because we have less bureaucracy, and I do see more opportunity for people to give input. But when there is crisis, hierarchy starts to kind of just go out the window, and it's beautiful. It's a moment where folks can say, no matter what level you are at, let's all be a part of designing the change and helping to implement the change. So tap into that. You may find some staff really step up and meet this challenge, where other staff that might have excelled in management before might actually not excel in this environment, where they have to think really quickly and make sure everybody is on board. So different staff are going to reveal different skills and different hesitations during these times. So it's interesting. We get to learn a lot about each other. And because of all of this openness, folks want action, right? We're creating this bias towards action. It's not just talk anymore. I've worked with so many teams as an employee myself, but also as a consultant, watching teams talk in circles and really not being able to hit that start button towards that change. Today, I'm seeing much less hesitation. Some groups are still that play it safe or measured, and then they'll hit the start button. But I'm seeing many more organizations willing to pivot, willing to try things to be able to make sure that they're adjusting to the times. And then finally, because this is this ongoing work in progress, make sure we're providing just-in-time feedback and really celebrating the progress, showing the progress internally and externally with staff, with clients, with funders, with the media, right, the general public. Make time for that. Again, sometimes we forget to take those steps, and we could really be leveraging those opportunities to further build the partnership, strengthen the team, or get the word out about the good work that we're doing and how responsive we are being, so that you can get more supporters and donors. So finally, now we're going to get to a few tips on how to really make sure that now that you're such a strong leader, you've identified your skills, how to really manage your team through this change. How do you position your own career? Because I'm getting a lot of those questions too, and thinking about your career future. So the 3 steps that I think are really important when you are thinking about your career is number one, what is your true passion? What really motivates you to get up in the morning and want to commit your time and energy to this cause? And by cause, there are two different kinds. Some people are really driven by specific outcomes. And so there are certain missions that really speak to you. Uh, and that's wonderful. Other people, when I ask them that question, they cannot answer it because it's not any one mission that speaks to them. It is maybe something more general. Maybe they're a generalist and they love being one of the puzzle pieces that helps an organization be really stable, helps a team thrive, and that's okay too. So when I say that you need to understand where your interests and motivations lie, it doesn't have to be mission specific. It can also be a type of job role or a type of impact you're going to make in the organization, in the field. Uh, so second, what skills do you have that really contribute to ensuring that that interest area can do well? How do you contribute positively? And so taking the time to do that self-assessment and putting it on paper, then you will gain that clarity to see, oh, based on these skill sets, based on these connections I have, based on this passion that I have, what are my options? Can I stay in my current job and rethink our strategy? Maybe it's adding a department, a service line that is sorely needed, right? I remember working with a almost about to retire superintendent of schools. He was about to retire in 2 years. And together we built out a full service community schools partnership program. Earlier, Madison mentioned it, that had 100 community partners. And that totally reinvigorated him. And he ended up staying for longer and made sure that the school district was able to carry that torch even after he retired. So sometimes this opportunity is not external to your organization. Sometimes it's once you have that clarity, you can help your organization uh, move forward its strategy as well. But for others, it'll be a job transition. And recently, for more senior leaders who have 15, 20, or even more years of experience, they are looking at job opportunities, which can be a little difficult during this job market because of all the job losses. But really quality executive leaders are still really hard to come by because it is such a difficult role to be a nonprofit leader, right? Earlier, that self-assessment had 8 different areas that you need to be an expert in. That can be daunting. My goal is to let you know that not everybody has all of those skills. So as we progress in our career, we continue to gain those skills. So look at what is your next step to help you be able to do the work you love, but also continue to gain the skills you need to be a really strong executive leader. And finally, for some of you, it might look like consulting or becoming an independent entrepreneur. There are different options. So work with a coach if you feel like any of these 3 areas are unclear to you. It can be really helpful to have somebody to reflect kind of your thinking and help you validate if you are on the right path or help you see new opportunities. So once you have that clarity, there are a few things that I've kind of alluded to already, but what I would really want you to do is to be confident about your story. Be confident about what it is that you are putting out into the world. And that includes helping your organization, your team, your mission. You are the face, the voice, and you've done that for your organization. Now I want you to also do that for yourself. What has been your experience, your achievements? How have you led these teams and organizations to success? Sometimes it's a story of overcoming something really difficult, but you learned from that. And positioning your resume, putting it on LinkedIn. Remember, anytime you're networking, making sure that you're on brand. It's your personal brand. And when you're applying and interviewing, when you're going to these network meetings, now you have these stories in your back pocket and you're telling a consistent story. The reason I want you to really capture these stories, put it on paper, and talk about it regularly is it becomes second nature to you. This is part of your identity. I want you to feel confident about the work that you've accomplished because you really should celebrate it. All of us have worked so hard in the nonprofit sector to participate and make sure that we are making a difference. So don't be shy to share that. Your stories are inspiring. When we hear what you've gone through and how you overcame, how you built programs and worked with people, new partnerships, those are wonderful stories for us to learn from. So finally, have patience. During these times, the jobs are evolving, our programs, our organizations are evolving. So you may see fewer jobs being posted, and it may take longer for that organization to process the resumes because they're still trying to figure out what it is that they really need during these times. So it might take a little longer. Don't take it personally. Keep checking in every few weeks. And again, all of these are best practice even before you're looking for a job. So we reached the end of our session. Thank you for staying with us. I am doing another training in September, so check that out if you are interested. It is how to lead partnerships and mergers successfully. Different topic, but one of my favorite topics. And finally, because you stayed till the end, I'd love to offer you, if during the session you felt like, ooh, I could use some support to think this through. I could gain some support for how to really work with my team or my board or my organization to help them during these times, or even personally, you want to talk about your leadership development, don't hesitate to reach out. I will be selecting a few of you just kind of randomly to provide a free job consultation session. No matter what, if you don't get selected for the free consultation session, I'm happy to review your resume or reply via email. I'm a resource here for you. But I will help take a deep dive for a few of you who share with me what you're going through. Just tell me a little bit, and hopefully I can be of service to you. That's my website. That's how you can reach me. Just contact me on the Contact Me page for leadershipsavvy.com. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them too. You can just type them into the box there.
Wonderful, Julie. Thank you so much. And just a reminder, everyone, the question box is located in your control panel for GoToWebinar. And you can just type in any questions you may have there. We're going to wait just a few minutes to see if there are any questions. I'll take this time to thank you, Julie, for taking all this time out of your busy schedule to come on here and educate our community and really share important and good information that is a really great resource for a lot of people in our community.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Yeah, it looks like everyone in the chat box is just saying thank you. And oh, somebody said, would you recommend a job change during this time?
I have spoken with a lot of people about that, and it depends. It's kind of like buying a house. There are lots of houses available, but the good ones get taken up really quickly. So if you are somebody who has a really clear resume and can communicate who you are and what you are interested in, and there's a job that is looking for someone like you will immediately be swooped up and hired. I have quite a few colleagues and clients that I've worked with where they have been able to job transition during these times. But if you're somebody who's more just kind of generally looking, throwing your resume out into the universe, you're less likely to get noticed because there are so many people doing that. So the more intentionality you bring to the search, it's still a good time to do a search. And the organizations that end up hiring you, they really need you right now. So feel free to reach out to me and I can work with you on your specific situation.
Wonderful. This one says advice for members Oh, advice for young staff members working in an academic environment for the first time with faculty who are very set in their own ways. How can I speak more confidently in a new role or setting?
Ooh, I have taught at American Jewish University for a number of years, so I'm really trying to channel that audience. Uh, so I agree. I've met some of my fellow faculty who are a little bit set in their ways, and it's funny because they somehow are kind of proud of it, right? They teach in a specific way. They've used this material. They're very proud of the process. Uh, my recommendation always, not just for students and faculty, but with any kind of staff relationship, is start with rapport, start with the relationship. Really genuinely take the time to get to know each other. And it doesn't have to be overly personal, but once you've built that rapport, that trust comes really naturally. And then I like to say, geek out, geek out with each other, right? Understand. I mean, you're in that school working on that particular project or course, uh, so that topic matter should be of interest to you. So come with it in a way that shows that you are really interested. And when you have good rapport, you have trust, you're going to be able to have some really fantastic conversations. But where I see people stumble is when they didn't take the time to really build the rapport and they want to dive right in. Let's talk about schedule. Let's talk about grading. Let's talk about the office hours. That's where they fall into trouble.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This next question says, if you need a new position during this time, how do you have any ideas about how to apply your skills to a new industry?
I am a recruiter and coach that really believes in taking skills and transitioning it to another industry. What you have to do is make it easy for another recruiter to see that. So for me, I'm the type of recruiter, I'm going to give you a second look, and in my mind I'll process it. But most recruiters will not do that hard work. So if you have a skill set, let's say you're in corporate marketing, and you really during this time want to be able to amplify the stories of the nonprofit sector, of people doing good work in our communities to help educate and make change, you need to use nonprofit language on your resume to be able to share that you have that experience of curating stories, listening to community voices, producing uh, videos or print material. I always see that these skills can be transitioned, but so many people use language that's comfortable to them. So when I look at it initially, I'll be like, oh, this is an entertainment corporate person. They don't understand our sector, right? So we have to do the hard work of translating our resume, our skill sets into something that's easily digestible for the reader so that they can see it's relevant.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And last question, it says, how long does it take to flush out of a consultation bid? How long does it take to flush out if a consultation biz is for me?
So I'm going to guess that this person is asking if they should be a consultant. There's a lot of questions that I have and would want to guide someone through to understand if they are ready. Depending on where you are in your career, there are different paths that I would recommend. I get this question a lot because a lot of folks do like to be more macro thinkers and like to be a part of strategy. And so there are different ways that you can gain that experience. If you have it already, then you can contribute by either being a part of another consulting team or building partnerships with other independent consultants to create a group so you can support each other and find a little more success, because getting clients is the hustle that you'll continually be on. And then for other people, they're more senior in their field. They may already have a lot of the networks and it would be easy for them to gain clients. So then they need to really work on building out the business model, the website, and really already be driving sales. So depending on where you are in your career, how ready you are to launch that business, I think there's opportunities to launch it at any phase, or to gain that experience through different avenues. So one other thing I want to say about that is many organizations, they do create space for you to be a strategist inside the organization. So for example, when I worked at the school district, that was exactly my role. The school district wanted to bring outside resources into the school district. And so I was basically their consultant, their strategist to make that happen. So if you are newer to the field, or aren't quite ready to launch your own strategy or consulting firm, look for opportunities within an organization that would allow you to play that role, because organizations, they need you as well.
Wonderful. And then I actually lied. We have one last question, and it just says, how do we get in touch with Julie if we want to take advantage of her free session?
Oh, please go to my website at leadershipsavvy.com. And on the top right, you'll see a contact button, or connect. And just type your email and a little bit, a sentence about why you'd like to connect. I'd love to connect with you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Julie, for everything, for your wonderful workshop and answering all these questions. I really appreciate it. I know that our audience really appreciated it today. So we hope you have a great day. And everyone who attended this, we will have the slides and a recording available on our website within 24 hours so that you can come back and review anything that you may have missed, or really watch that information again just to get everything out of it. So thank you so much, everyone. I hope you have a great day. It's almost Friday. Have a great weekend. And Julie, we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.